Welcome to the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast. Your hosts, Bill McKenna, Paul Robert, and special guests discuss ideas for creating alignment in your sales and marketing efforts and ways to accelerate growth. Now let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast. And as Paul knows, I always start off by saying, hi, how's it going, Paul?
Good, Bill. How are you? Great to see you again. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it has been. We've had a couple of conflicts and schedules and different things, so hopefully we'll get back on track here pretty soon. But Hey, it's really great to be with you again, and we have a really special guest with us today. Someone that I consider a long-term friend, and we'll talk more about that. And certainly someone I've worked with for years. And Paul, why don't you introduce our guest today?
Yeah, I've known Bob for, about 5 or 6 years now, Bob. We've worked closely together, and he's got a great credit union outside of Pittsburgh, Washington, PA to be exact, but Chrome Federal Credit Union. And in the 5 or 6 years that Bob and I have worked together, it's really impressive how the organization has grown, how the culture has evolved, and in addition to that, Bob's here not just to talk about Chrome and brag about Chrome, but we're going to capture some wisdom from Bob because he's retiring in 30 days. And so what an exciting time in his life. And we're so happy that he was able to join us. So Bob Flanyak from Chrome, great to see you as always. Welcome to the podcast. And tell us a little bit about Chrome. Tell us a little bit about what the next 30 days at Chrome are going to be like for you, Bob.
Well, I'm really happy to be part of your podcast. I've known both of you gentlemen for a little while. Bill, a little bit longer for sure. And it's kind of a nice little capstone, to kind of have the opportunity to kind of talk about some of my journey and kind of where I've been. And it's not let's just say it's not a linear path. All right. There's a lot of bends in this road for sure. And so, as I am on that 30-day clock, and May 1st I will be retired. Got in this industry back in 1981. And before that, I was working at a finance company, household finance, scoring loans on a piece of paper and knocking on doors and making collection calls. And boy, what an experience that was. It really, it wasn't much fun, but it sure prepared me for some things for sure.
Hey, Bob, you talked about it being a road, a winding road. We need guardrails on our winding roads, right? Unless you're in California, they don't believe in that. But on a winding road, we need the guardrails. What have been some of the guardrails to your success? What have been some of the things that kept you on the road and led you to this successful point in your career?
Well, it took me a little while to kind of understand myself and what I thought was important to me from a professional perspective. And I think back in the 80s and the 90s and how things have changed so much. But I think that probably the biggest influence really has been the way I was raised. My dad was a tool and die maker over at the General Motors facility over here just outside of Pittsburgh. Grew up, didn't have a lot of money, but was pretty smart. Got involved with his credit union. 29 years he was a volunteer there. Everything from, credit committee to supervisory committee, all those committees. And it was, a great way for him to learn. And he was a lifelong learner, as I think that's where I get it from. And I took advantage of all those credit union opportunities, CUNA Management School, Financial Management School, all those kinds of things. And, when it came time for him to retire from GM, General Motors, he went to work at the credit union as their CEO. And he was there for a few years, got recruited, wound up working in a really large credit union in the Philadelphia area, Sun East. He was there for 13 years. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, this is somebody with a high school education. It just shows that, if you apply yourself, if you pay attention, if you're a constant learner, and you treat people the right way, it's the journey can be very rewarding. And I think that's where I got a lot of kind of the way I approached the business from him, and the way that he cared about people. And it was really interesting. We would go to the annual meetings, credit union annual meetings. I got to see the Temptations, the Stylistics. They gave away a car one year. I don't know if you remember the Chevy Citation, and I got to see a lot of that. And I also remember, they would have their board meetings right after work, so it was like 4:00, and my dad didn't get home one time. It was like 7:00, and my mom's like, "Where have you been?" He goes, they just start talking. She goes, "I told you, you gotta have an agenda. If you don't have an agenda, this meeting's gonna last forever." And
way to go, Mom. Yeah.
After that, they had an agenda.
Hey, Bob, I've had the privilege of working with you at 3 different institutions along the way, actually, starting back in New Jersey, and then having done some work for Chrome. I'll be honest with you, I've worked with lots of different credit unions, and I must say, one of the things that really impressed me about Chrome when you became their CEO is their brand. You guys have put a lot of work into that brand. Your branches are beautiful. You've done a lot of things different than many credit unions your size. And Paul, I know you've worked with them in some of the culture pieces as well. I'd love to hear more about that, like what that's about, how you've worked towards building that brand. And for a credit union your size, I'll tell you what, you don't look your size. You look way bigger, because the quality of what you've done is quite impressive.
Oh, thanks for saying that, because we do put a lot of effort into the brand. And a lot of people think the brand, it's the orange, it's the logo, it's all those and I mean, all those things are important. When I got here, they were in the middle of rebranding from a community credit union, and before that, an old steel mill credit union. And so I always thought that the kind of the collateral part of things was, I don't want to say easy, but less difficult than the experience brand. And how do people feel when they deal with your organization? What is the perception of the community? Even like when we interview candidates for positions here, we ask them, "What do you know about Chrome?" The first thing out of their mouth is, "You guys do a lot of things in the community." So that tells us it is resonating. We know that our organic membership growth, 80% of those members come to us because another member referred them. Yeah, and you look at even like our Google reviews, we get about 5 a month. They're almost always 5 stars. And even the 1 stars, it's the 1 stars that are the most interesting. That's where we learn some things. It's always great to get these 5-star reviews, but it's those not 5 stars that we can learn something about how we're approaching the business and the community. So, yeah, the experience brand is really, I think, is the most important thing that we do here. And of course, it always starts with the employees and making sure we got the right people in the right seat and have the right mentality.
What do you see, Bob, as you look across the industry in regard to that? The presence in the community. I talk to some CEOs and they'll respond with, "Well, yeah, but what do we get for that?" That type of a thing, the ROI type of question. It's legit, I guess, but Speak to that, if you will, both philosophically as well as from a business standpoint.
I've heard the same thing, Paul. It's, what do we get out of sponsoring an event? Or, the way we look at that, you have to look at it in the totality of getting our brand out there. And there's, when we participate in the food distribution or we volunteer at the Salvation Army, there's no ROA associated with that. But what it does, it helps to set the stage for awareness in the community. And people that already deal with us, our current members, first of all, they love seeing us doing those types of good works. I feel like they're proud that their bank, because they still call us a bank, is giving back and doing things to enhance our community, becoming a community resource. And so, and the way that we do that isn't with cutting big checks. There's a lot of financial institutions around here and big companies that cut big checks. And we used to have a really big check. It was like 5 feet long, but it disappeared. Somebody tried to cash it or remote deposit. I don't know whatever happened to it. But we do sponsorships. They're typically under $500. But what we do is we participate. We bring resources. The average Chrome employee in 2025 volunteered 24 hours. That's mentioned food distributions. From blood drives to all these different types of things. We go down to the local library and we read to the kids, for example. Fun things like that, things that people it's tangible, and it really it puts us in a light that we're not just selling bank products. We are a part of this community. And so that's how we've tried to approach the whole branding and community engagement piece. Plus, we've got people that love to do that kind of stuff. And, that starts with really having a group of teammates that just love to give back, love to volunteer, love that feeling. And I think that's really how we've been successful in that whole community relationship part.
And Bill, let me just jump in. When Bob says we, he includes himself, because I know you've gone to that library and read books, and I know you've been out at all of those events that we're talking about. So visibility, you've made yourself visible as well. And Bill, we talk a lot about differentiation and how important that is for the credit union brand to stand out for the right reasons. What a great example of that the team at Chrome has been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that those are the kind of things you need to do as a credit union. And Bob, I love the fact that you're involved, because I think when CEOs get involved, and I don't care what size credit union you are, when the CEO is visible with the employees and with the community, it means something to that team to say, they're not sending me out to do it, but they're participating. They're as engaged as we are in that. And so this conversation of brand is so important. Bob, did you have a comment? You were going to add something to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, so thanks for saying that, Paul. I appreciate it. But I do love doing those kinds of things. So it is in my wheelhouse. And, it's to those CEOs and other leaders in our wonderful movement, you need to get out there. If you think you're going to just sit in your office and not be a model for what you're expecting from your people or hoping for, it's just not going to work. You're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. The whole discussion about culture starts at the very top. And I've been fortunate that our board has given me a lot of leeway and a lot of trust to go down this road of culture enhancement. It's our number one strategic priority, employee engagement.
Just pause there. Let that be a mic drop, because I can count on one hand how many credit unions have told me that culture is even one of the three legs of the stool, you know? And here you say it's your number one strategic objective. How has that changed, Bob, over the years? Let's don't go too far back because that's kind of obvious. But even within the last 5 or 6 years, I don't know about you, but I've seen culture become more and more and more significant. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And I also think it's really our greatest opportunity as an industry is to really push that forward. There are so many competitors out there with great products and more branches and all that, better price. I mean, we have come to the brilliant conclusion that if you don't have great people delivering a great experience where the rubber hits the road, when somebody reaches out and they've got fraud on their debit card and they are freaking out because they got to make a rent payment, or people are having issues with delinquency, they lost a job, they need a friend in the business. And that's the perspective we're taking. We are their friend in the business. And we've got resources. We can guide them. We can show them. We get a lot of I call them refugees from the local big box bank that's located in Pittsburgh, because people have had problems and there's nobody to talk to. They send you to a call center. We got people. We got people you can come down and talk. We are your friends and your neighbors. And we've been here 55 years this month. And while things have not always been to that degree, it is something that we've worked on over the last 5 years or 6 years, 7 years. And that's all very intentional. But once again, if you don't have somebody that's modeling the behavior and you're not putting yourself out there, and you're not finding ways. Every community has opportunities. And for us, food insecurity is a really big deal where we work and live. And between that, financial education, those are two areas that we've really focused on. And our people love doing those kinds of things to kind of really connect. And that's how we make a difference. And then when we get them, we're saving them money. For every car loan we refinance, we're saving somebody $120 a month.
Yeah, this is such a great conversation. Paul, we should take Bob on the cruise we're doing in Alaska in June and have him help us with our brand delivery, because what you just said is so true. This is the only thing that will make them different, many of these institutions. But having said that, I do want to jump to another topic, because we could be talking about this brand thing, and we talk about it a lot on these podcasts. And what you just said from your perspective, your size credit union, it's great. It's amazing stuff. And I guarantee you we're going to pull a couple clips from what you said, and we're going to post them so people can hear them. But I want to talk about one other thing too. A credit union your size, or smaller, mid-sized credit unions, whatever you want to categorize yourself as Chrome, technology is also super important to create a powerful brand. And I know for a fact you've also invested heavily into that for a credit in your size. Could you talk about that? Because we could talk about the great experience, but if our technology is terrible, which unfortunately many small credit unions struggle with technology, we've got a problem. We're going to hurt our brand tremendously. So Bob, why don't you talk about technology a little bit and what you've done there at Chrome?
We've got basically two groups of people that we're serving in our membership base, and we know our members. We've got some of those boomers like myself, people that are kind of anti-technology and just want somebody to talk to, and then we've got this younger group that if you don't have the technology, they don't even want to talk to you. And so we have invested heavily, but the trick really is balancing out that human touch. and not just pushing people to technology. We've got some FIs in our area that they're replacing their tellers with kiosks. We talked about that a few years ago, and we made the decision we are not doing that. The people that we have in our branches are the ones you talk about brand ambassadors. I mean, they come in and it's like they're coming home. I see them. I go to these branches. It's so invigorating to see the interaction, the way that we're connecting with people. But if you don't have the technology, you are not going to be able to be around for an extended period of time.
Here's just a quick shout out to our sponsor, ironistic.com. Hey, in today's world, everyone knows the importance of having a great website and having an integrated digital marketing plan. If your credit union, community bank, or any other company is looking for that help, I can highly recommend ironistic.com. Check them out.
The problem that some small credit unions have is, first of all, they lack the mindset. Maybe somebody has been running the place for a long time and they're just trying to get to the finish line. And investing in those kinds of things, it's foreign to them. And then there's others that want to do things, but they don't have the income to be able to afford things like that. So we are very, very fortunate. We do a great job on the lending side. That's our bread and butter. The team that we've got that works with our members on the lending world is just first class. I mean, they take the time. They're making right decisions. And you know what? Even when we say no, it's not no forever. We're like, okay, here's the problem, and here's what you can do over the next 90 days to try to fix this thing. Come back and see us. You know what? They come back and they do those things, and we are able to make those loans. And we do make exceptions. Believe me, we make exceptions. But you know what? It's like this mantra we have where if you're good with us, we're good with you. And honestly, if you don't pay that other big bank down the street, but you're good with us, you know what? We'll be good with you. I mean, that's just the way it is.
I love that. I love that.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, so let me jump back 1 second here, because I think that when I talk about technology today, and I love what you said about certain people. So you must be a wizard, right, with technology. You must be the smartest guy ever out there. Like, you know everything about technology. And the truth is, that is never going to happen as a CEO. We have to surround ourselves with people who can make us better. And that is a huge problem. I see, Bob, I see credit unions that are smaller with guys that are really good hearts. They love the credit union. They love the movement. They're smart, but they've not surrounded themselves with the right people or the right partners to really get there. Would you agree with that as a problem?
I totally agree. You know, I am not the wizard for sure. I mean, I do pay attention to a lot of things, but I've got people around me that understand it, that get it, that can help to make the technology relevant to our members and also internally. And so it's one of those things where if you're the only person that has this technological mindset, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to go anywhere. You need to have people that understand things, and where we expose them to, to different opportunities to learn more. We do have some really great partners also that we push our partners, and we're asking questions. You know, I mentioned, before we started, over the next, this last 60 days of my tenure, we're having all our key business partners come in to just kind of reacquaint themselves with our new CEO, Brock Sleek. And we want them to know that the expectations are not changing, that we do expect them to be proactive with us. We expect them to present opportunities. And we are a willing participant in that world. We've done some things we've piloted some things. We're fast followers when we can be. But it does really come down to having, like you said, as you said, Bill, I mean, having the right people around you, people with this open mindset, people that are not satisfied with the status quo, understanding that our competition is moving quickly and we need to be paying attention and delivering technology that is going to be relevant, is going to make people's lives easier, but at the same time balancing out that human side.
And it's a blend of the human touch and the technology, Bob. I mean, it's amazing how many times we hear conversations where it's one or the other, it seems like, and it's not. It's got to be the blend. Do you agree with that? I mean, AI can replace somebody to do a transaction, but AI can't replace the conversation like you've been talking about, that your branch staff in particular, I know your contact center is terrific as well, delivers to your members. It's got to be that blend. Don't you agree?
It definitely does. And, and human is actually one of our values, and keeping it human. And that's why we don't use banker lingo when we talk to people. And the same thing with technology. But we have to have the option, because we have members that just don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to do it all. And so we have options for them. But those that want to talk to people, they can easily talk to one of our team members. And when they do, for example, if they call us, there's no time limit on how long they can talk with a member. I've worked at another place, a very large credit union, and we had a maximum of 4.5 minutes. And if you talk to somebody for more than 4.5 minutes, you had some splaining to do, Lucy. I mean, you had to come up with some reasons. And so, that's something that we have not done. And I know that Brock, he's very respectful of our brand, and that's not going to be something that's going to happen in the future either. So the balancing act has to be there. It's just so many, especially the for-profit FIs, they look at technology as a way to do things cheaper, to save money. And we look at it a little differently. We're looking at it as a way to enhance what we're doing while still keeping what kind of got us to this point right now, and that's having this human connection and being there and being able to talk to people in language that they'll understand. So, I mean, balance is critical.
Yeah, you're sharing so many great little bites here, and the wisdom that you have, I'm just enjoying listening to you. There's some of our listeners, and probably Bob, you don't know this, but I'm a drummer. So I played drums for years, and it reminds me of a story years ago when I was in this band during my college years playing. I went to art school, and we had this I played a band, and I was drummer, and we had this very inebriated guy walk up to us between songs, and he came up and he kind of staggered up to the stage. He said, "Hey," he said, "You guys are really mediocre." And I'll remember that to the last 7 days. Mediocre. Like when you're in a band, you don't want someone to come up and say you guys are really mediocre. But it makes me think of so many credit unions today that are really mediocre. And they make excuses for that. They make excuses. And again, I'm always encouraging people I speak with, this is not the time to be mediocre. 15 years ago, we may have had that opportunity to still exist. We can't be mediocre today. Things are changing so quickly. And Bob, don't you agree that the time to change, it's getting shorter, the window. And unless credit unions realize that, the leaders realize that, their existence has to be questioned.
Well, you're so right. It's the time to be bold is like yesterday, my friend. And if you are not taking steps right now to address your technology, your culture, your brand, you are going to be left in the dust. And it's And you can't be blaming people. I see that all the time. Bill, you see it. Paul, you see it. We've got to take responsibility for our world. And if there are things that we are not doing, we need to figure out how to do them. And so many credit unions I know just have kind of thrown in the towel. I mean, granted, when I started back in the day, there were 24,000 credit unions. Now there's around 4,100 credit unions. And to be clear, I mean, banks have declined also. But so many of those credit unions, how many of them would still be around had they been more proactive? Understand that when you're working with your teams, it's not about managing them. It's about leading them and being an authentic leader that has some level of emotional intelligence and some perspective of the world, and not just kind of say, oh, well, we're small. I mean, the time to take action is now. Now is the time to be bold. Now is the time to take control of your future. And for some people, some credit unions, maybe merging is the right option. But you know what? Not until you've done some things. And the challenges that these small credit unions have, and I still consider us small. I mean, small now is under 500 million in assets, and we're sitting there around 220. It's with 54 team members. I mean, it's tough, but if you have a mindset of not being afraid to make changes and step a little bit outside of the norm of what you've been doing over the last 10 or 15 years, that is how you're going to survive, maybe thrive, but it comes down to mindset.
Hey, Bob, talk about the merger specifically for a minute, if you would. You just recently completed one. I'm not asking about that specifically, but just in general, what's the mindset around two credit unions merging? Again, from a cultural standpoint, from a brand standpoint, what would you say to any credit union CEO that's sitting out there thinking, all right, is this a road we should take, or should we avoid it? What are your thoughts on the merger discussion?
I think mergers are going to continue to happen. The latest projection I saw, they were talking about between 180 and 200 in 2026. And I think that is going to continue to accelerate. And, when I think about the mergers we've done and the other ones I've been involved with, everyone is so focused on the operational piece of this, making sure that we have a good communication plan and how are we going to convert all these debit and credit cards and core integration and contract termination fees and all that goes with that, all like critical, important. But don't forget about the people part. I mean, the combination of two cultures can sink a merger. And maybe the operational piece goes fine. But then you're left with two groups of people that need to be rowing in the same direction. And I think that CEOs need to be more cognizant of that. Operational, of course. But don't forget about the culture piece of it. How are you going to bring these two groups of people together to work as one? Because they've just been through, who knows, it could be a very difficult situation. Mergers, they upend a lot of things. And you need to now reconstitute that group. And focusing on culture is what they need to be doing. So it's not just about the numbers.
Yeah, good. Love that. Bill, you want to anything to add? Any last questions before we close it out with Bob?
No, like I mentioned, I've been really enjoying this. I'm sitting here thinking about all the stuff you had to say, Bob, and I think that your wisdom, your insight, what's been done at Chrome is very impressive. I've really enjoyed working with you over the years. Like I mentioned, we go quite a ways back. Matter of fact, the other day I was thinking about it. It's probably over 25 years. So been a long time. Yeah. And like you, when I first jumped in this industry, I was a genius, a marketing genius. Like I would be, hey, have you guys ever heard of direct mail? Credits were like, direct mail? We could do that? It's just changed so much. But I will wrap up by saying this, and then Paul, if you have any additions, but I will wrap up by saying we can't lose our passion for what we do. I did spend about 3 years in a community bank. It was my COVID job. And I would say the one thing that was so different in that community bank was during those board meetings every month, we didn't talk about what was best for the member. That's still why we're here. We didn't talk about what was good for them. How can we save them money? We didn't talk about that there. What we talked about was shareholder value. How can we make more money? And honestly, that's what this industry is about. That's at the root of it. And when we get up every day as leaders in credit unions, we better have a vision to understand that's what this is still about. It's about the member. It's what makes us different. And there could be lots of arguments out there from a compliance standpoint and from a FDIC fight against the truth is we are different. We are completely different than a for-profit bank. And we cannot lose that. All the things you talked about are so important to help us to maintain that. Paul, any final thoughts, or Bob?
Well, I got two questions for you, Bob. First of all, what do you wish you knew 10, 15 years ago that you know today? What bit of wisdom do you wish you could interject into that younger Bob Flanyak, but also to some of the younger CEOs that are listening to this? Anything come to mind as far as something you wish you knew then that you know now?
I feel like I could have done a better job as far as the whole work-life integration part. I always had this chip on my shoulder. I was not an accounting major, and I wasn't, I don't have an MBA and all those. So I always felt like I needed to work harder, and that nobody was going to outwork me. They might be smarter than me, and they probably are, but I'm going to continue to evolve, continue to learn. And, I look back and I think about all the people that I've worked with that have helped to kind of create what you see today. And there's been some great experiences, and there's been some very challenging ones. And it's the challenging ones that really make you stronger. And I think looking back, that's the perspective I wish I would have had when I was going through those rough times. Because they really, as hard as they were, I didn't feel at the time like it was preparing me for something. I look back now and I'm like, yeah, working there was terrible. But you know what? That perspective and what I learned there, kind of like what you said, Bill, I actually worked in a bank for 2.5 years. You know what I'm talking about. And it was all about shareholder value and all the things that I thought about how credit unions were different and better. They're all true. And it's not just we're a nicer bank. No, we're a financial cooperative. And I think that had I grasped that earlier, I think it would have been better to kind of articulate that to various people. And so I think that, and also just kind of embracing that whole emotional intelligence piece. I've kind of just really picked that up in the last 6 or 7 years. And that's something I wish I would have kind of grasped a little sooner. And now I get fed that information on LinkedIn every single day.
All right, second and last question. What are you going to do in retirement? What's on your to-do list when it comes to post April 30th? What's on the agenda, Bob?
Well, it's unless you've been a CEO you don't really have an appreciation for just how difficult this job can be, especially in a credit union our size. We got 53 employees, and I just need to decompress a little bit. We've got some travel scheduled. Emily and I will be doing some traveling, and but I think come fall, I'm going to get more involved with some of the nonprofits that I currently engage with. I'm going to do some more with my church, Salvation Army, food bank, those kinds of things. That's kind of where my heart is kind of taking me, as well as grandkids. I got 4 grandkids now, and they love seeing their poppy, and I'm still the fun poppy.
Which means they're not teenagers yet, right?
Yeah. Zip lines and hang gliding. There you go.
Yeah, there you go, right. Plus, it's baseball season, and so your beloved Pirates might have a good year, fingers crossed, right? So that would be a nice...
500. We're going for 500 this year.
Good deal.
Bob, it was really a privilege to have you as a guest today. Honestly, awesome. I've probably, and I'm not just saying this, probably my favorite podcast we've done so far. No, I might also because I know you personally, I know your heart, your passion, and we wish you the very best in whatever that next journey looks like. It sounds like you're going to keep yourself very busy, and probably people are going to appreciate being involved with you and the passion you have for helping others. So that's super. So thanks so much. We'll wrap this up. We could probably talk for 3 hours today, honestly, but we'll wrap this up today. Hey, Bob, maybe we'll have you back as another guest sometime, like a post-retirement. And I have the feeling, knowing you too, that you've got some wisdom to add to this credit union industry, and we'd love to find some ways for you to do that as well, which I'm sure you're thinking about. So thanks so much, Paul. It's good seeing you again today.
Yep, you too. Thanks, Bob. Good seeing you, buddy.
And thanks for the opportunity. It's been fun on my side.
We'll catch you guys another time on the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast. Take care.